Hi, you guys, and welcome to my presentation, my analysis of my learning for TEL 212 Cultural Diversity. I want to start by saying I loved this course and that there are 50,643,000 total students in the American public school system. That is so many kids, y'all. That's 50 million kids. It's nuts. Okay. Um, the diversity breaks down like this. There are 13,453 school districts in the U.S., according to the U.S. Department of Education, and racially, 45% are white, 28% are Hispanic, 15% are black, and 5.4% are Asian. And then, of course, according to the CDC, a study put out by the CDC, 10.4% are LGBTQIA+, and 20.7% are exceptional. And that's according to our textbook. And when I say exceptional, I mean students with disabilities and are gifted and talented students. So as you can see, it's safe to say that the American school system today is very diverse, very diverse. And in this class, in our cultural diversity class, the two biggest things I learned were the concepts of multicultural education and culturally responsive teaching. Multicultural education is a construct that respects the diversity of students and their families and builds on that diversity to promote equality and social justice in education. And then culturally responsive teaching affirms the cultures of students, views the cultures and experience of students as strengths, and reflects the students' cultures in the teaching process. They are based on the premise that culture influences the way students learn, and it does. It not only influences the way they learn, but what they learn. And my favorite quote in this class had to be Tika, I like Go Pee. That's Malia Kialoha. I hope I said her name right. But it's in our language section of our textbook. There's the story about the little girl who asked the teacher, she said, Tika, I like to go pee. And the teacher said, you need to say that in proper English. And the little girl said, I know can. And then the teacher obviously was like, well, you're not going until you say it. And the little girl ended up going to the bathroom on herself. You guys are so sad. Um, and uh, it just really shows if the teacher had just taken the time, and maybe if the teacher had gone through this course and she'd taken the time to just show little Malia that you can say, like, the way she said it is the way that she was taught to say it, and like there's nothing wrong with that. That's her way of saying it. And then there's the proper English version. And if you just compare and contrast, and it would have been so much better. And I don't think 30 years later the girl would still remember the interaction. Um, so one of the biggest tools I learned in this course was, of course, the equity literacy framework. And I can use the equity literacy framework to help recognize, respond to, and readdress inequities inside and outside of the classroom. The equity literacy framework also allows me to cultivate and sustain efforts for equality actively. This framework is a tool that we can use the same way that critical consciousness is a tool that we can use. Critical consciousness lets us identify and challenge the social forces that produce inequity. And taking these tools that I have learned in these classes, I can help others use that equity literacy framework to impact my students positively. I can also teach my students to be more critically conscious of their world. And finally, I can help and encourage my colleagues to use culturally responsive teaching to help foster multicultural education standards. The biggest challenges to me becoming an effective culturally responsive teacher or community leader would definitely be myself, right? Because becoming a multicultural teacher requires a deep reflection of your own experiences and perspectives of the students and communities with which you work, and the willingness and commitment to change by critiquing your own attitudes and behaviors within the social justice lens. So it starts at home, right? So challenging the biases that I myself hold will be a challenge. And then also I will face challenges on an institutional and society level when presented with inequities both inside and outside of the classroom. And these will definitely be difficult to readdress because they're so big. And then finally, I think another big challenge that I'll face will be standards. Standards for both the curriculum standards and performance-based standards for my students. And that may challenge my ability to be a culturally responsive educator and community leader. Ways that I can overcome these challenges, though, however, are the tools that we learned in this course, the Equity Literacy Framework and Critical Consciousness. I will use the Equity Literacy Framework to help me overcome the challenges in myself, institutions, and society, and I will use Critical Consciousness to teach my students and help my students overcome the challenges in the curriculum and academic standards that they will face. These are the 10 commitments for equity literate teachers. I will obviously fully intend to honor these to the best of my possible ability. I will inform myself. I will understand the socio-political context of schooling. I will work to see the conditions I'm conditioned not to see. I will refuse the master's paradigm. I will never reduce equity to cultural activities or celebrations. I will not confuse equity with universal validation. I will resist simple solutions to complex problems. I will work with and in services to marginalized communities. I will reject deficit ideology, and I will prioritize equity over peace. Additionally, 4 commitments I want to make personally is to always look within and be sure that I am addressing any unchecked biases. I want to listen to my students and hear their perspectives. I always want to stand up for what is right, even if I am standing alone, and be an advocate that my students need. And I also want to be the example that my students need. I want to lead by example. I don't just want to tell my kids these concepts, I want to show them. That's my reference. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much, and good luck.